Hey, brain snacks! Quick question. If you could live forever, should you? Stranger Things gave us Vecna, a mind that chose immortality over humanity. But that idea is older than half the dust in a museum. For thousands of years, rulers and scholars tried to cheat the end, to keep thinking, keep ruling, keep meddling. Some wanted wisdom, some wanted power, some just really hated the idea of being left out of a sequel. And every time someone decided death was merely a polite suggestion, we edged closer to the creature we now call the Lich. Years before fantasy writers started giving skeletons fireball budgets, real-world powerhouses were already planning their comeback tours. In 1323 BCE, Tutankhamun is laid to rest with one goal: keep ruling. Spells from the Book of the Dead line his walls like divine legal paperwork. And those canopic jars? Oh, those were not just ancient Tupperware, they were soul storage, a cosmic spare parts kit. Not called a phylactery yet, but the logic is basically waving its hand and coughing loudly. Meanwhile, in 5th century BCE Persia, magi were buried with strict rituals. The real fear was not their corpses getting uppity, it was their ideas getting back up. Nobody wanted a dead sorcerer finishing whatever ominous project management chart he started in life. Then in 1st century Rome, the poet Lucan describes Thessalian witches who might claw their way back mid-curse, not due to undeath, but because they were simply too stubborn to stop mid-sentence. Across the ancient world, one worry returned again and again. What if the powerful do not stay politely buried? People were not afraid of zombies. They were afraid of leaders who treated death like an optional side quest, the ultimate power move. And that is where the Lich begins. Once the pharaohs were done storing their souls like magical leftovers, the pursuit of immortality did not slow down. It simply put on a lab coat. Enter Paracelsus in the early 1500s. Doctor, alchemist, and a man with enough confidence to prescribe immortality like it was cough syrup. To him, the body was not doomed to decay. It was just waiting for the right chemical pep talk, preferably served warm. Then we have Johndee, born 1527 court mathematician by day, angelic hotline operator by night. His library was packed with grimoires, manuscripts, and enough mystical paperwork to qualify as a hazard zone. His home was basically one cursed artifact away from being a classic Lich starter kit. Both men chased the same idea: keep the mind running, even when the body files for retirement. By the Renaissance, death felt less like destiny and more like a technical problem in need of enthusiastic tinkering. And every experiment, every forbidden whisper pulled humanity another inch toward the moment someone would finally declare, "Life ends for other people. I am built different." While Europe's alchemists tried to bottle eternity, Japan offered a quieter, far more disciplined alternative. Beginning around the 11th century, certain Buddhist monks believed enlightenment did not need to wait. Why depart the world when you could stay, watching over it indefinitely? Their path was sokushinbutsu, self-mummification, years of eating roots and nuts, turning the body into a minimalist eco-project. Then came toxic teas that preserved the flesh from within. An internal pickling, but spiritually motivated. Finally, the monk entered a stone chamber with a breathing tube and a bell. Each day the bell rang. I am still here, still committed, still very sure about this decision. When the bell stopped, the tomb sealed. 3 years later, if the body had not decayed, the monk was recognized as still present, not living, not gone, just here. A spiritual guardian with remarkable staying power and exceptional patience. Some remain today, serene, unmoving, silently judging everyone who skips morning meditation. This was not dark sorcery. No pacts, no cursed gems, no theatrical chanting, just a human so devoted that even decay politely stepped aside. If pharaohs wanted to rule forever, sokushinbutsu monks wanted to remain forever. A mind with purpose, a body as anchor, a lich minus the fireballs. By the 1970s, people were not just reading about immortality, they were rolling dice to see who survived it. In 1974, Dungeons and Dragons arrives, and suddenly the ancient fear of undead masterminds gets paperwork. The Lich becomes official, a wizard who chooses undeath, not cursed, not bitten, not the tragic victim of an artifact with too many warning labels, a deliberate overachiever. Unlike earlier undead, these creatures do not shuffle around moaning. They strategize, they scheme, they cast spells that should probably require building permits. Early adventures mention terrifying figures, but none loom larger than Vecna. Appearing in lore fragments in 1976, his legend grows. A sorcerer king who split his soul, lost his body piece by piece, and left behind relics that nobody with sense should touch. Seriously, do not touch them. This is not ancient myth. This is a villain engineered for maximum narrative dread. Through Dungeons and Dragons, the Lich becomes the nightmare of infinite intellect with infinite time, the ultimate I read all the footnotes antagonist. And monsters like that never stay confined to tabletop pages. When Stranger Things dropped in 2016, the Duffer Brothers kept a tradition. Every season's nightmare gets pulled from fantasy's greatest hits. Season 1 resurrected the Demogorgon, a name so accidental it was basically summoned by a typo. Season 4 reached higher up the monstermanual. They pulled the lich-shaped storm, Vecna. But to understand Vecna, you have to understand Henry Creel, a child whose mind sharpened into a weapon while his emotional life stayed stuck in the sandbox. He never learned limits. When you can override adults before middle school, no rules apply, no punishment sticks, and no one ever forces you to grow up. Hawkins' lab wasn't his prison, it was his playhouse, his kingdom. And like the old pharaohs, Henry had no intention of leaving a domain he controlled. Then came the one thing he'd never faced, a force he couldn't bend, 11. By the time Henry reached the psychic showdown with her, he'd burned through every luck point he ever had. No re-rolls, no inspiration dice, nothing left. He failed that wisdom saving throw so catastrophically, a full nat one, that the universe didn't just knock him down. It yeeted his ass straight into the shadow realm, with the kind of force usually reserved for duelists who should have hit concede 3 turns ago. Far more than a D4 of psychic damage.
Emotional damage!
Her power didn't kill him. It humiliated him, cracked his ego, fractured his mind, and filled the gaps with raw, undiluted rage. And in that broken place, he became something ancient. Just like the Thessalian witches, who refused death out of spite and siphoned life to stretch their existence, Henry refused to end, not for destiny, just because he couldn't stand losing. When 11 hurled him into the void, a realm with no time, no shape, just cosmic leftovers, he didn't die, he rebooted. From that emptiness, he rebuilt Hawkins, a perfect still frame of November 6th, 1983. Time paused, entropy politely stepping aside. He fed on memory, pain, and the life force of anyone unlucky enough to brush his mind, stretching himself into something twisted and enduring. And honestly, if he'd remembered there was a Denny's in Hawkins in '83, hashtag not sponsored, maybe he'd have chosen a Grand Slam breakfast instead of becoming a supernatural spite engine. Priorities, Henry. Where classic leeches hide their souls in gems, Henry chooses something far less subtle, an entire mirrored world. The upside-down becomes his phylactery, a psychic ecosystem sculpted by spite. Every vine a nerve, every spore a thought, every creature a twisted idea shaken loose from his own mind. He isn't your typical bony fireball-hurling lich. He's the crystallized, unapologetic essence of one, the refusal of an ending. A being who laughs at the idea of stopping, because his work isn't done, and deep down,
He knows it never will be.
across history, every brush with immortality reveals the same truth. We do not fear dying, we fear being finished. The sokushinbutsu monks stayed to guide, their presence was devotion, a quiet promise. Vecna stays to dominate. His presence is a correction, an edit nobody asked for. Both defy decay, both anchor their identity in something that lasts. But their motives could not be more different. One stays for others, one stays instead of others. That is the razor edge of immortality. A vessel built from hope becomes devotion. A vessel built from fear becomes a cage. A vessel built from rage becomes a conqueror. Every Lich story, from tombs to tables to television, asks the same question. If you kept going forever, would you still be you? The danger is not that the body stops. The real terror is a self that continues long after compassion, humility, and connection have fallen away. Like an echo that forgot it used to be a voice. Immortality is not the enemy. Isolation is. Heroes are remembered because their time is brief. Liches are feared because they refuse to let the story close. So, brain snacks, here's your meditation for the night. Immortality isn't evil, but losing your humanity to chase it, that's how you end up a dusty skeleton with a god complex. If you've got thoughts you want to preserve forever, leave them in the comments. Tap that like sigil and activate the subscribe rune. Share this with your adventuring party so we can keep wandering the weird together. Stay curious, stay mortal, and remember, snacks shouldn't last forever.